Elon Musk himself owns more wealth than the bottom 52% of American households. Is that a moral issue? Are we comfortable with that?
Bernie Sanders joined Andrew Schulz and his pals on that podcast. And in this video, we're going to take a look at the part of their conversation where they discuss income inequality. And of course, Bernie Sanders has been talking about this for his entire political career. He really schools these guys on the basics. And was one of the reasons why I love Bernie Sanders. So why don't we watch this together? And then I'll have some opinions. And then I'll ask what you think in the comments.
I asked you, how are we doing as a nation?
I would say we're struggling financially.
Good. That's right.
I think,
Quality of life.
I think quality of life
That's exactly right.
And I think that we are disillusioned with the institutions that should be supporting and protecting us.
Excellent. All right. So that's right. All that's right. So start off with, in one sense, we are the richest country in the history of the world, right? We have enormous wealth.
Yep.
Does that wealth apply to the vast majority of the people?
Absolutely not.
No. So unbelievably, and nobody talks about this. You ask me, we start off on the Democratic Party. The first thing you got to do is be honest with people and say, look, this is where we are at. We can blame whoever you want, but this is where we're at.
Here. Yeah.
Right. They don't acknowledge that. So you're living in a country where 60%, let me underline that, 60% of people live paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
Got it? I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck. All right? Where paycheck to paycheck is living under enormous stress. How am I going to pay the rent? What happens if my landlord raises my rent? What happens if my kid gets sick and I can't afford to take him to the doctor? You know, what happens if my car breaks down? You know that significant numbers of people in this country, you have money, you don't think about it. But if you don't have any money and your car breaks down,
it's over.
And it's $1,000 bill to get it fixed,
Yep.
and you can't afford it, you tell me what happens.
Yep.
All right. Bottom line is you got millions of people, working class people, lower income people, struggling to put food on the table. Okay, that is the first profound reality. And the question we've got to ask is, why is that in the richest country on earth? All right, that's number one. Number two, you have a healthcare system. How's the healthcare? You tell me. Got a great healthcare system in America? Well, what do you think?
I mean, if you can afford it, it's pretty good.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to look at it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
All right? If you got the money, you got the best healthcare system in the world.
Yeah.
But most people don't. How many nations do not guarantee healthcare to all people as a human right? You guys know?
How many?
One major country. You're living in it. So here's the insanity. We are spending twice as much per person on healthcare as most of the European countries.
Guarantee free healthcare, not to correct you, but
yeah,
we won't refuse care if you need it. Oh, wait, we will.
Well, it's a little bit more subtle than that. Yeah, all right, let's say you have a $10,000 deductible, okay? Not unusual.
Yeah.
Okay. You get sick. What do you do when you don't have any money? You go to the doctor?
I go to the emergency room. I say I'm sick.
Yeah, but you go to the emergency room, but you're not like, it's not an emergency. They'll say, well,
I'm just a little bit sick. I just avoid it. That starts to fester. It gets worse.
You got it.
And that actually probably causes more strain.
It does. And you know what else it results in? The study from Yale was that 68,000 people a year die precisely. You go talk
Just
to
from
the
pushing
doctor.
off illness.
Next time you go to a doctor, say, are people coming into your office much sicker than they should be?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes, they are.
And that's just avoiding copays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, fair enough.
So people do die by the large numbers. What about our educational system? Psychologists tell us that 0 through 4, most important years of emotional and intellectual development. Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we must have a great childcare system, right? Because we love our kids, we nurture our kids, we pay childcare professionals. Really, we appreciate them and respect them. We pay childcare workers McDonald's wages.
Yeah. It's shocking. It's also shocking how much competition there is to get your kid into like a favorable preschool.
Right.
Like you have to start lobbying these preschools at 1 year. My daughter is 15 months, and already now you're like,
he's like a pharma company to get his kid into
exactly. Like you're kind of walking in, you're meeting people, you're exchanging pleasantries, and it's all under this guise of, I hope they accept my kid.
Right. Because you have a massive shortage.
Yeah.
And if people don't have any money, it is really difficult. And so I don't know what it costs here in New York City. You know, in Vermont, it costs $15,000, $20,000. So if you just
imagine you have 2 kids, forget it.
That's right. Exactly.
Forget it. Yeah.
A lot of these guys, Andrew Schulz, like Rogan, like a lot of these comedians that do podcasts that have sort of slewed right and are now kind of like they're kind of saying, whoa, this is crazy. I mean, wasn't what we bargained for. They're now having this kind of, it's not a come to Jesus moment, but it's kind of a wake up call where they're talking about, like Andrew Schulz talking about his kids here. If you got 2 kids, forget it. He's a wealthy guy. I'm sure he makes a lot of money, but he can see he's close enough to the, now that he's got 1 child himself and imagining these costs, it's really interesting to watch this needle swing back a little bit towards a more common sense reality.
But again, take a deep breath and say, okay, if we as a nation understand that that's the future of America.
Yep.
We want the best. You would say, okay, we're going to have really great teachers for them. We'll treat these teachers with respect, pay them well. They're doing really important work.
Yep.
Taking care of your daughter is important stuff.
Agreed.
Okay? We don't. Public schools, I was talking to a principal in Vermont, in southern Vermont. They're starting teachers off at $32,000 a year. So kids, young people graduate school in debt. We're not getting the best and the brightest people. Do we respect education in this country? No, we don't really.
What do you mean by respect it? Like
that we say, man, you're going to be a teacher.
Educators. I don't think educators get close to enough respect.
We give them a lot of platitudes.
Yeah.
Oh, how noble is
We say we respect them.
But we don't treat them with respect.
We don't feel the same way as if they're like some finance bro or something like that.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Just to that point, take a look at it. Harvard College, one of the best colleges in America, something like 5% of the graduates will go into education, and they're not going into public education.
Of course not, yeah.
50% will go to Wall Street. They'll go to consulting.
You make a great point, though. If college loans are so expensive, they don't even have a choice to go into education. So is there some sort of system built in where, like, if you choose to go into education, that there's a way that the
loan will be forgiven?
Something like that.
Yeah, there are small programs.
They have something like that. But that's a good idea. And again, I'm not making this up. I'm sure there was some system like that. But I imagine, like, maybe back in your day, that there was a version where, like, highly educated, not highly educated in terms of master's program, but like people that went to elite universities before they went and got their master's or their doctorate spent some time educating. Was that commonplace?
I'm not sure. I don't recall that. But
like, if there was a way to incentivize that might be
right.
good,
Of course, that's right. But what we have to do, give you an example, and what also bothers me is we don't look at what goes on around the rest of the world. We kind of think that we're an island unto ourselves. What we should be doing is what is working around the rest of the world. So you take a country like Finland. To be a teacher is a big deal in Finland. Wow, you're a teacher. It's like being a doctor in this country. People respect them. They're well paid. They have a lot of autonomy, etc. But all that I'm saying here is that if you look at the fundamental institutions in America, healthcare, education, childcare, distribution of wealth in America, we are not doing well. And it's important that we acknowledge that. So, I mean, nobody, you talk about your very kind introductions and, talking about things that others don't talk about. How many people will talk about the reality that Elon Musk himself owns more wealth than the bottom 52% of American households? Is that a moral issue? Are we comfortable with that?
I think, of course, it is a moral issue. And I think that when you frame it simply like that, without the finger wagging and without the outrage, which, of course, is completely justified, it gives people, like in The Art of War, Sun Tzu says, give your enemies a golden bridge on which to retreat. Look, there's going to be some right wingers that are just in it for the boogaloo and they're never going to change. I think a lot of people incredibly bought the party line and were so dissatisfied under Biden that they thought maybe things will be different with Trump. And they're now realizing, oh dear, this isn't what we bargained for either. Maybe we've been lied to. So we have to let them back into the tent somehow, and we have to show them the way back to common sense. And I think that's what Bernie is really doing. And I did another video on this as well. You should check that out. Or you could go to, Andrew Schulz's channel and watch the whole thing. But, it's really interesting to me to see how Bernie Sanders is doing the kind of on-the-ground grassroots work that the Republicans have mastered, right? Even though the Republicans and certainly this administration is really the party of the Heritage Foundation, which are not grassroots at all. They have leveraged the internet. They've leveraged these talk shows and these, AM radio to really metastasize this message of, the Democrats are everything from literal vampires and pedophiles to George Soros' Jewish weather machine, right? I mean, conspiracy theories and just capitalizing on the somehow this enormous squeeze you're feeling is the Democrats' fault, and their socialist wokeism is at fault rather than these right-wing economic and religious policies that are, let's dismantle any regulation on wealth and we'll elect a guy that literally appoints an entire cabinet of billionaires, and we'll start cutting safety net programs on which so many millions of Americans depend, etc. Right? You wouldn't be listening to this if you didn't already understand the score. So it's fascinating to me to see AOC and Bernie doing these tours, to see comedians on the left stepping up and calling it and adopting some of this grassroots messaging, finally, that the Republicans have been weaponizing for decades. And of course, now big tech and those billionaires on platforms like this are skewing the algorithm whichever way the wind blows. So it's crazy, but it's interesting to see comedians who have recently skewed right start to sort of relate to the problems at a nuts and bolts level like this. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments.